Let's take a look at Judge Eyes for the PS4. Released in Japan in December 2018, this game will reach the West sometime in the summer of 2019 under the slightly less impressive title Judgment. I have been playing this game for about 10 hours now, and I think it's time for a few thoughts about what it's like. In this game you play as Yagami, a private detective who used to be a defense attorney, but who stopped practicing law because something horrible happened. While working as a private detective, he gets involved in some really shady Yakuza business and decides to solve a murder case even though nobody wants him to. Yagami is not exactly Yakuza himself, but it's a world he's quite familiar with. So, it comes as no surprise that this game is made by the same team who made the Yakuza games. Judge Eyes takes place in the same world as those games, but from a fresh perspective. Also, from what I can understand, the actual game world, a fictional part of Tokyo called Kamurocho, has also been recycled from the Yakuza games. And speaking of the game world, I showed this game to an expert on environment art, and this is what he said. Those characters look really realistic, but the environment looks horrible. It looks like a last-gen game. Is this really a full-price title? And yes, this game is very much full price. It was actually quite expensive. The game's story is set today, and just like in real life, you will be using your smartphone for everything. Leveling up skills, taking pictures of cats and crime scenes, and even for controlling your drone. However, this is a heavily story-driven game, and while following the story, most of your time is spent going from one point of town to another, watch a cutscene, and then move to another part of town for the next cutscene. While going from place to place, you will be attacked by random hooligans or gangsters just to keep you on your toes. So far, all of these random encounters have been very easy. The more difficult fights appear as part of the story. The story missions have you investigate or infiltrate various dangerous locations. You may have to use your drone to spy on the enemy, investigate scenes for clues, use a disguise to fool guards, tail people without being noticed, or chase them through the streets. This all provides some variation, but you don't get to decide much, if anything. If you use the drone, it's because the story decides that it's time, not because you think it's clever. Now this may change. Maybe you are given more freedom later in the game, but at least during the first 2 chapters, you just do what the game tells you to. The freedom you do have lies in all the secondary activities you have available. At pretty much any time, you can go to a bar, buy expensive whiskey, get drunk, and play darts. You can go to the batting cage, you can enter a race with your drone, you can play pinball in your office, and you can go to a number of game centers and play full versions of several old Sega games. The newest of these is probably Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown, which is quite nice. Finally, you get to play as that sumo guy. Or would you rather play as El Blaze? That's okay too. I've had a pretty decent time with most of these activities because it feels so real. Even if the graphics are last gen, the town still feels very much like the real thing. So if you, like me, allow yourself to be drawn into the illusion, there's an experience to be had just by being in this fictional town. But is the game any good? Well, I can't write an actual review before finishing the story, so the final verdict will depend on what happens now. Will the story stay interesting? Will something completely unexpected happen, or is it all something we've seen before? And more important, will the game ever give you free hands to investigate as you see fit? Also, will the gameplay become more demanding? If there are lots of tailing and chasing missions to come, will these provide any real challenge? Will the combat offer decent opponents? Will I need to become better in order to beat my enemies, or will it just be gangs of pushovers trying to stop me? Once all of this has become clear, I will return with the verdict. I wonder how long this game is anyway.